met at 9.
We met at 8.
I was on time.
No, you were late.
Ah, yes, I remember it well. We dined with friends.
We dined alone.
A tenor sang.
A baritone.
Ah, yes, I remember it well. The dazzling April moon.
There was none that night, and the month was June.
That's right, that's right.
It warms my heart to know that you remember still the way you do.
Ah, yes, I remember it well. How often I've thought of that Friday
Monday
night when we had our last rendezvous. And somehow I foolishly wondered if you might, by some chance, be thinking of it too. That carriage ride,
you walked me home.
you lost a glove.
I lost a comb.
Ah, yes, I remember it well. That brilliant sky,
We had some rain
those Russian songs.
from sunny Spain.
Ah, yes, I remember it well. You wore a gown of gold.
I was all in blue.
Am I getting old?
Oh no, not you. How strong you were, how young and gay, a prince of love in every way.
Ah, yes, I remember it well.
Hello, singers, my subscribers, all of our donors, our very faithful audience, and all who have a love for the Susquehanna Valley Chorale. Welcome. I'm so delighted today to talk with two of my most favorite people, Jake and Jill Gardner, with whom I've had the pleasure of having them sing with the Susquehanna Valley Chorale many times on numerous occasions. Jake and Jill, you were going to help us celebrate our 50th anniversary season. And of course, the entire season was postponed, and you were going to come back and sing Messiah with us as our featured soloist at the Weiss Center at Bucknell University. And so this has really hit musicians so hard, and my singers really miss this whole experience, as you can well imagine. I guess probably the first question for me to both of you would be, how, as professional musicians, how has this affected your lives the last 5 or 6 months?
Well, greatly, as you said, and you know, it's like all things. There are positives and negatives. We've lost all of our work. We also feel like we'll probably be the last of everyone to go back to work, because in order to get people into theaters, we're praying for vaccines and all of those things. We've maintained connection with all of the people we were going to be working with. I'm certainly missing not singing Messiah. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's been a while since I've had an opportunity to sing that music. And it's a lot of that music is part of my sort of daily warm up, actually. It's medicine for the voice. And so that's been the hard part. The good part is that we've been home. We've been in North Carolina. I've never been in North Carolina for the spring, and the summer. And so that's been really great. We've had a beautiful time here. We love our home, and we love being home, since we're people who are normally on the road. And I've been in my own kitchen for like 4 months, 5 months, and so I actually know where all the knobs are, and we're killing it.
We're killing it. So you got to find the blessings, you know, everywhere you go. But yeah, it was very humbling, I have to say. I was on a job when COVID really hit. I was performing Tosca for Eugene Opera in Eugene, Oregon, and we got to the night of the final dress rehearsal, and that was on Wednesday, March the 13th, and the performance, March the 11th, and the performances were to be Friday, March the 13th, and Sunday, March the 15th. And that night, when I got home and went to bed, I cried myself to sleep because the governor of Oregon basically said that due to the COVID pandemic starting up really strongly there.
It was the Northwest is where it began.
That's
really.
right. And that no groups over 250 would be permitted to gather. And so the Holt Performing Arts Center in Eugene is a 2,500 seat theater.
Wow. So,
you know, again, we had not figured out how to deal with this because, you know, the interesting thing now is that theaters like that might be like Jake was saying, might be possibilities for reopenings when it can happen, because you will be able to socially distance audiences in places like that, you know.
right.
So, but who knows, right, at this point. So it was just extremely humbling. And I was just so very sad. And Jake came out for those performances. So luckily he was with me, and we figured out how to get home on that Saturday in between those performances. So
but the bright side of that one is that my granddaughter is out in Portland. So I got, even with that trip,
he got to see
I
little
got to
Luella.
see my Luella, my 2-year-old.
So it's, you know, and yes, like Jake was saying, we've lost all of our singing work. And really the only contracts that we have sitting out there now are for the spring of 2021. So, you know, we're hoping that by then a vaccine can be found or can be created, and people will take it so that we can go back into the theater.
Right.
So,
and every company has either postponed or in one instance we changed the opera. I was going to be doing Aida in Tampa, and so
in April of this year.
In April of this year. Now it's out into
April of 2021, and it's become Madame Butterfly.
So
yeah.
I would have loved to have seen Jake sing Aida.
But yeah, I had my tiara.
Exactly.
No, he was singing the daddy, but you know, yeah. So we're all in as we say, it's all fluid right now.
Exactly. And you said you have a spring 2021 engagement right now, hoping that everything works out. And I hope that you'll circle some dates in October that fall to sing Messiah, because we postponed, we did not cancel, because we're still wanting to celebrate our 50th anniversary.
Oh, yes.
It will be so great if I can have the two of you.
Oh, don't you worry.
That's great.
We will make that happen.
That's wonderful. And you know, Jill, many of our singers and audience members will remember you helped us celebrate our 40th anniversary when we did the opera gala, Love and Loss. And
yes.
How can anybody in the audience ever, there wasn't a dry eye in the house and you sang VC Dante. And, you know, and we had so much fun with Carmen, just
yes.
really good times. And going back, for those of you that remember, Jake sang with the Williamsport Symphony when we did Vaughan Williams' 5 mystical songs. And we sang that with the symphony and with Jake. We've had numerous, that decade from 2000 to 2011, 10, 11, was a great decade for a lot of major works where I depended on these guys to come as featured soloists. So we
Yeah.
did a Christmas, we did the Odier, the Vaughan Williams Odier, and at that performance, I had scheduled us to do his Fantasia on a Christmas Carol, and we had rehearsed the Odier, and Jake and Jill started walking out of the rehearsal hall, and I said, Jake, wait a minute, you're singing the Vaughan Williams. And he said, that's news to me. And so somehow the communication had we had not connected on that one. And he said, but I'll sing it. And this is just who they are. This is who they are.
It's the singer's nightmare.
I know, but
Yeah.
I read it beautifully, and then, it was perfect. You both have sung in Hawaii many times. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I went first, and to preface, it is the singer's dream job. And I think I think it was 30 years into my career before I finally got there. Because the operas were always in January, February, and March. that was their season. And it turned out after I came back from Europe, I got an audition for Hawaii, and it was with Henry Aquino, who knew me, I knew, and he knew me from Germany when I was in Cologne, and he worked with Harry Kupfer in Berlin, and anyway, it all came around, and I went and auditioned for Tosca, and a couple of weeks later, he offered me the Trittico, and so I went to do the Trittico, and it was a wonderful production. And then the guy who was to come for the next opera, which was Tosca, was ill. In fact, he had gotten cancer, and he did not survive. But they asked me if I could stay on because we're so far away to sort of change and get someone out there and everything. So I said, absolutely. I mean, I love that company. For me, it harkens back to the Tri-Cities Opera where I grew up, which was sort of half amateur, half professional. And that's what Hawaii is. The chorus is completely amateur, and what a group. It's like your group. I mean, they have their own identity. We used to tailgate in the parking lot at all of the rehearsals in the theater. And they play music, and oh my gosh, I just fell in love. And the Hawaii is a very, very singularly beautiful place. So we went there, and I remember after, I think it was the second sort of meet and greet for the Tosca, and I said, "You're never, it's taken me 30 years to get here, and you're never getting rid of me." So and further on, Jill came and sang. We did the night music there, and then we also did a great deal of teaching there. We worked with the Maisie Orvis studio there, and we would do 3-4 week workshops. We would work with about 8 or 10 of their singers, and then we would perform together for a kind of a scenes program. And then Jill went and did a number of things there.
Yeah, it's been a joy. Jake first went in 2006 for this Trittico, and then ending the season with Tosca, and then the next summer we were out there doing a little night music, as he said, and then I had sang Tosca with them. The last thing that I did was Blanche Dubois and Andre Previn's A Streetcar Named Desire, big role. And so it's been terrific. And Henry Aquino left, resigned from the general directorship, and unfortunately, Bibi Freitas, who is what I would call, she was the musical director in many ways.
Earth Mother.
But really the Earth Mother of that company. And she died several years ago as well. And so it was really difficult to see those transitions happen within that company that we loved so much. But they've done really well. They brought in good people, and they, like you, have postponed their season, but they are doing a virtual season. They call it HOT Digital. And I will be involved, hopefully, in a project for that in the spring. I can't give details, but there's something very exciting for that too. So as Jake was saying earlier, you know, I think that this time has been very poignant for all of us to lose the opportunity to sing and work together and be in the theater and create. But a lot of people, just like the Susquehanna Valley Chorale, a lot of companies are figuring out how to create a virtual presence in this sort of, you know, 2021 season. And it's very smart, I think. Hawaii's doing that. A lot of what we refer to as the A houses in the company, or in the country rather, are doing that. And the regional companies are following suit. And I don't think it will ever go away. You know, I think even when we come back to the theater, I think this kind of environment will be with us for a long time. So, you know, kudos to all of you for figuring this out to make this happen.
Yeah, we were all kicking and screaming for a while.
Yes.
It was unbelievable. And after you get through the depression and realizing that you can't sing live, then we went to work and figured it out. And we've done one virtual performance with our student singers. It's so wonderful, Jake and Jill. We have 8 students from universities in the area who sing with us. We're also we're in the preparation stages for a virtual performance coming up in October, when we were supposed to do Messiah. So yeah, we're
exactly
making it go. I wanted to ask you both, Jill, you probably remember back in 2007, you invited me when you were both living in Binghamton,
yes.
New York. You invited me to come up and conduct the Rudder Requiem, and then you and Jake sang, and this was with your own chorus.
That's right.
And I'd like both of you to tell us a little bit about some of the things that we don't know about you. I don't think most of my singers realize that you are also an organist, and you know, and hobbies that you have, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, oh that was wonderful. Yeah, well, what you're referring to, Bill, was a concert that I did with a group called the Jubilee Arts Concert Series. And I ran this concert series through the church, First Presbyterian Church in Binghamton, New York, where I was the minister of music. And in my life, I'm a committed Christian, have been all my life. And in sort of going along with all of the singing that I've been able to do, because it was in Binghamton where I met Jake at Tri-Cities Opera as a resident artist there. And that is where I went to start my opera career. And so, but when I've always along the way, as many of us gig performers do, had church jobs. And that particular church job that I had, I was the minister of music for First Presbyterian Church in Binghamton, running this Jubilee Arts concert series. And the last concert of that series every year was a community oratorio. And so I put together a community chorus, very much like the Susquehanna Valley Chorale. And this year, that concert not only was the Rudder Requiem, but it was also the Foray Requiem. Mm-hmm. And we did it in 2007 to honor those folks in our congregation who had passed on. And it was we had significant people to die that year in that congregation. And I could think of no one better to lead those requiems than you. And so it was such a joy to have you come. And yes, Jake and I did the solos, and the chorus, the chorale, they were swooning over Bill to have somebody that positive and that, you know, professional in front of them, because I wanted to provide that kind of experience for that choral group too. And so it's a very special memory. Because I think, and what this time has also told me too, is that it's very important for us to provide these kinds of musical experiences to our local communities. And that's what you do, and that's what I'm also inspired to do, because music is a gift from God and it can change lives.
And just a quick story about what Jill did in that church is it bolstered and caused really a renovation of that space to also become a performing space. And the arts really drove that whole thing there. And that how important that is and what a big industry we are. And that I am actually thrilled that we are at least being considered in this help from this pandemic for the very first time as artists and gig people and valued. It's important.
It is important. Yeah. Yeah. And also to that point, I think that the arts, people don't realize, I think sometimes that, but this kind of situation brought out that the arts are a $4.6 billion industry in the United States. And that's just, you can't balk at that anymore.
No.
You know, I mean, it's one thing to think of ourselves as artists and creators, which we are, but we are a business now. Mm-hmm. And so, and in smaller rural communities, this can be an engine of not just business engine, but an engine of creativity and ingenuity, and really help students
and service
to really help students and young people have a way out of poverty, or at least learn to value themselves from a state of poverty. Mm-hmm. Because unfortunately, our schools don't really provide music and art programs, at least not how it was when I was growing up. And so, you know, I think every organization within any community, and churches can provide this now as well, since school education isn't always able to. They can provide this kind of programming within these communities. And that's where, I guess, if I'm an activist, that's where I'm an activist. Right. And I believe in providing that kind of programming, because I grew up in a rural community with very conservative parents who did not make a lot of money, but when they saw that I had a musical talent, they invested in that.
Right.
And I want to be able to provide that too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
You both moved from Binghamton then. When was that? Like 2011?
That was correct. Yeah. Moved
so
here.
You'd done a number of gigs for us, and then you moved to a place called
Kernersville.
Oh, Kernersville. Let us know what you're doing there now too, because I think this is interesting. You know, just what you've brought to that community.
Yeah. Well, when we moved here, I was trained as a pianist. I started taking piano lessons when I was 5, and I did my undergraduate in piano and my master's degree in voice, because it was during that undergraduate that I found that I had a talent and a voice to actually sing opera, right? But, you know, as we all have to do, when I was growing up in church, I became the church organist when I was in my home Moravian church. I grew up as a Moravian at the age of 13. And so I started in addition to my piano lessons, I started studying organ then too, out of necessity, out of need, right? And that's what developed that. So everywhere I've gone, I've always been a part of the local AGO, which is the American Guild of Organists, and have gotten certification through that organization as well, since I'm really not keen on going back to school, right? So anyway, when we moved to North Carolina, I got in touch and joined with my local AGO chapter here. And I told the president of that chapter that I was here, and that when I wasn't on the road singing, I really wanted to be able to substitute. And he was like, oh, Jill, that's music to my ears, because the majority of their organization had actual jobs. So it was very easy for me when I was at home to be plugged in to churches as a substitute. And in January of 2018, I got an opportunity to go to a church, a Methodist church. This is the first Methodist church that I've worked for, across the North Carolina border in a beautiful little town, rural town called Martinsville, Virginia, to substitute for their church, First United Methodist Church in Martinsville. And we all fell in love with one another. And I was there for about 6 months, and they wanted to hire me. And so it's been a wonderful relationship because they totally support me in singing as well. But particularly once COVID hit, I have been able to develop a lot of online programming for them. And so as my mom says to me, or it reminds me, God knew what was coming down the pike. Right. And she, you know, this is a win-win situation for everyone. So I am the director of music ministries at that church, and am developing a lot of these kinds of programs. And luckily we are going through the process there too, using this COVID time to do a major renovations project in that sanctuary, so that when
organ renovation,
but space renovations, because it is a beautiful sanctuary. And when we get to the other side of this, as I say, we're going through the wilderness of COVID now, but when we get to the promised land, we are going to woohoo it up. We're going to throw it down in that space. So maybe you'll be coming down to Martinsville.
Yes.
Dr. Payn. Yeah, we would love it.
Yeah, that would be so fun. I think I just caught a side glimpse of Jake, and I think he sprouted a ponytail.
I did. This is my Bill Payn COVID memorial haircut.
And I got to say, so
I just got it all in one bun.
That's great. Wonderful.
The other side of what she's done here has been in with the children. She's got them. She's actually wanting to start a community chorus for the children.
What Jake is saying is that I'm really thinking, or I desire to start a community music school there.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah, because it's needed, it's necessary, and it can. I just, you know, it's a dream. You know, we all have to have our dreams and our visions, and I think the area is poised for it. But there are a lot of great kids in that area. There are great kids everywhere. And for me now, it's about the kids. You know, I have all the personal aspirations that I have for my own self. I have that. But I'm at a place in my life in going through all this to where we have to give back. And going forward, it's about that. My phrase is, it's about the kids. So that's why I'm so delighted to hear what the Susquehanna Valley Chorale is doing to bring these 8 students in, right, to give them that experience, because this is what we have to do. You know, it's not about fame and fortune and being a star, because we're all, the heavens are filled with stars, right? It's about what we can give to other people.
Yeah, and the basis of my musical training was in a choir, in a chorus.
Yes.
I mean, I went to Crane School of Music in the New York system, and it was a big choir school, and 2 wonderful, very different and opposing conductors who taught us so well. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's no better way, I don't think, as a singer.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. And one thing that always has impressed me about the 2 of you is that when you are in front of an audience, and even when you're in a rehearsal and you're in front of the choir or the orchestra, there's a real connection that we all feel from you. And, you know, that's a big thing for me. You know, so many artists put up a wall and look at me, you know, and the 2 of you are not that way at all, not even close. And, yeah, I just admire that about the two of you. And I know that that's why our singers love having you come back and our audience loves it. I mean, and you take the moment and work with it. And, you know, like when we did Carmen and I found you up on there you were on the conductor's stand. I don't know what you were doing, but I was still trying to conduct. But yeah, any words that you have, I feel so honored that we can have you both, and we have that connection.
Yeah, well, and that is what it's all about. I mean, you know, sometimes you go into a job and for lack of a better word, it's a job. You know, you're there to do your job. It's maybe not as artistically as fulfilling because it's not about maintaining that kind of connection or working for that camaraderie. Sometimes it's about a job as opposed to the creative process, which is what I think for Jake and I really fuels us. But, you know, I think in the end, what for me in my artistic journey is what it's taught me is in some ways a very Buddhist thought, actually, which is we only have the moment. The moment is all we have. You know, the past is in the past and the future will come from that. But artistically, where I've learned, I think, for myself to live the most in the moment is when I'm singing or when I'm doing music. And and I think that's why the older that I get, the more I want to be able to create space for people to have those kinds of moments. Because when we do that, we're going to be better.
Yeah. Jake and Bill, this has been fabulous. And I, like I said, you know, our singers, I can't wait till we have that first rehearsal. And I mean, can you imagine? It's going to be like...
Yes, and that music.
Yeah. And
particularly the Hallelujah chorus.
I know. And I know. And then just doing a warm-up, we're probably all going to be in tears.
Yeah.
But finally here, I've loved this conversation. And is there anything that you can say to our singers that give them that same hope and feeling that, yes, we can go on?
All I can say is that we're singers. We're singers, and we will. I have my same routine that I have if I was because that's what I am. I mean, and it's as much about service to this thing that has this gift that I've been given, and it's a gratitude, and I can still do all of the things that I need to do to stay ready. Because I thought, geez, you're going to cancel the end of my career.
I know.
I mean, I made it. My goal was to make it to 70. I made it to 72, and I was making a new plan already. So, yeah, that was kind of the tough one. But it hasn't changed anything, and what we need to perform. It's part of what makes us grow.
Yeah, and along that, I would say to your singers to keep, like Jake was saying, to keep singing, you know, to find something, even if it's just a little song, you know, since we can't do big choral things, but, you know, find something that you can work on, that you can just take a moment at home just to do your warm-ups, you know. When you get in the car, have that song somehow, because you can pull it up on your phone or whatever and sing while you're going down the road. I mean, I think that we can't stop doing this activity, making music, because for me now it's also about preparing a lot of online programming. I'm learning all this music to record every week for our online worship and for my hymn segment that I do, and my Auntie Jill's neighborhood that I do for the kids, which the adults I think love just as much as the kids. It's funny, right?
Thank you. We love you both.
Oh, yeah.
You are beautiful, Bill.
Let me get our puppies so that we can all say bye.
Oh, Bill, it's so great to see you. You look fabulous. Hang in there. This will pass.
I remember it well. You wore a gown of gold.
I was all in blue.
Am I getting